And now, for another installment of Stream Theory. Oh, hello. Welcome. Won't you come inside and try some of the screwed up on Condiment groups? We also have croutons on scripts. And if I'm not mistaken, Suzanne is just in the kitchen right now, and she should be pulling out of the oven fresh and hot a bunch of graudup and freshly made, of course, and organically sourced. With a spread this good and weird. No wonder it's all goofy. Who invited Charlie Kaufman? Get this man out of my house! Fucking hell!
Yeah, it's stressful.
With a fucking spread that doesn't make a goddamn lick of sense.
Not at all.
It's fucking Stream Theory.
It's Stream Theory, baby.
I guess.
It's Stream Theory, and we're here to talk. We're here to talk about... Well, what are we here to talk about, friends? Should we talk about who we are? Should we talk...
Yeah,
because
let's talk about who
time
we
doesn't
are.
matter. It no longer matters that we have a format for this show, because it has just been, ripped asunder, and now we
wild.
float in the galaxy of eldritch horror where nothing is... We are all dust. What does that mean for us? Who are we?
Who are we?
I'm
really?
Ben.
I'm Matt.
This is so...
I am merely a collection of electrons and particles that has assigned some inherent strange value to its own continued waking existence. And for some reason, upon being sparked awake, I was given the moniker Ian.
Anyway, so this is Stream Theory. We're going to be...
I feel you.
And the movie we're going to be fucking reviewing today is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. This dropped quite recently on Netflix. It's directed by the one and only Charlie Kaufman, and it was written by Charlie Kaufman based on the book by Ian Reid of the same name. And it is starring Jessie Plemons, Jessie Buckley, Toni Collette, David Thewlis, and Guy Boyd. Oh, shit. And I need to figure out who the fucking... okay. And the director of photography is Lukas Zal. Okay. All right. The plot, full of misgivings. A young woman travels with her new boyfriend to his parents' secluded farm. Upon arriving, she comes to question everything she thought she knew about him and herself. That does not fucking do anything justice.
That's not the
That
story.
makes it sound so linear and so clear cut. Get your shit together, IMDb. That is so far from the truth.
Right.
What is the truth?
Because here's the thing. Whoever did that was probably an unpaid intern for IMDb that had to watch this film, sat down and said, "You know what, Charlie? No. No, Charlie. This is what your movie is, and that's what I say. Because I'm not making money to do this, all right? I'm eating ramen noodles."
You can't do a synopsis of this movie in a paragraph. That's impossible.
I mean, because a synopsis of this movie would literally just be talking blow by blow about every single moment that happened.
She just can't.
And then,
So she arrives at town. She has an inner monologue.
Sighing.
There's a dude in the window. He's also got an inner monologue. The car pulls up. It's the boyfriend. She gets in. He's like, "Winter is a-coming." She's like, "It's the sky," and she climbs in.
Yeah.
We cut.
Or you could just be like, "I don't know." Yes, I don't know.
I know. Yeah.
I don't know.
I would have a lot more respect for IMDb if they just truly were honest with themselves and were like, "Fuck."
Yeah, the synopsis is just like the emoji shrugging guy just being like, Jesus, this fucking movie.
It's wild. I guess someone give them the rundown of the show. Guess my brain is fried.
Okay. Yep. Let me go ahead and just put the fourth dimension back together as I filter it through my three-dimensional lens and I pull the ocean of time back into a straight single linear stream.
We should edit this show out of order
This all comes at the end, by the way. Like, we just open with the fucking ratings. Oh my God. So yeah, if you are perceiving this through a three-dimensional lens, friends, we typically start with a little breakdown we call the good, the bad, and the remake. We, as a collective, take turns sourcing 6 good things we like about a film or project, 6 things we wish they had done better or that we take issue with, and finally, when Hollywood inevitably recycles whatever this story is in 5 to 10 years, we talk about what it is we would do differently. After all that, because, you know, even though life is pointless and we may not all exist at all, like, we try to ascribe meaning to things by giving it a rating, whatever we watched. We do the ratings, we could do 5 stars, but like, no. We still make more sense than Charlie Kaufman, but we decided to go in a less sensical direction. And so, at the top, the very tip top, the best, the cream of the crop, you've got a must watch. Self-explanatory, right? Simple, easy, it's fucking good. Go watch it. Just below that, you've got, it's on the list. What does that mean? It's in your queue, you know, you're just busy, but it's there. You want to devote time to it because you recognize it deserves time. It's on the list. Just below that, we get to the median of our rating system, where the middle is something for the background. Again, pretty self-explanatory. It's inoffensive. You can throw it on. You can do homework, chores, whatever. It's a good distraction when you need it. As we get to the lower tier of things, you get I Would Rather, wherein we, your hosts, have to describe what we would rather do than be forced to watch said film or property again. And at the very bottom of the barrel, at the very bottom of our rating system, the absolute just worst that you can do. In fact, it's like worse than not even trying because you tried and you did something horrific. You have the kissing booth. It was once Artemis Fowl, and then we found kissing booth, and you know, when you find the bottom of the barrel, gotta make another barrel. So that's it, folks. That's how we're going to be examining I'm Thinking of Ending Things, if it's even possible, like, thoroughly deconstruct that in any meaningful way in the hour that we want to be in your ears. So what do we think, fam? Should we just get this cooking?
Yeah, let's get the shit over with.
Okay.
I'll go first. I can, unless someone else wants to.
No,
please, Matt, what is the first good thing you want to say about I'm Thinking of Ending Things?
My first good is, and it's gotta be the acting from everyone. I think that everyone does a stellar performance. This is a movie about an hour of which takes place in a fucking car. Mm-hmm. That is a hard sell for most people. And I think that Jesse Plemons and Jesse Buckley do a terrific job of being in that space and remaining engaging, even though there's literally like nothing going on cinematically. I mean, the camera moves, but it's like, you're not getting any, it's tight, it's claustrophobic. It's just them. And I think that they do a tremendous job of keeping the viewer's mind from wandering through a good performance. And I also think the same applies to his parents. I think that they do a tremendously good job of making you super duper fucking uncomfortable. I think the performances are really good, and I think that I think every single person pulls their weight to what end I don't know, but they all do a really good job pulling their weight. So that's my first good.
That's a good. They're fucking phenomenal actors.
Yeah, they really are.
I feel like a lot of them got their start from theater. They just seem very seasoned. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Everyone seems very seasoned.
Yes. This definitely feels like it could have been a play.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I got from it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially considering, as you just pointed out, we spend an hour in a car, thankfully broken up. Like, if we had spent a straight hour in that car, like, Ian might have gone crazy, but they
Yeah. So that's my first good. Who wants next?
Oh, Ian, you want to do it or?
I see. Ben is shying away here.
Oh man, I'm still digesting it all, but yeah, let's take a stab at this.
I am too.
Oh fuck. The sense of atmosphere in this film, is stellar. That's a huge thing for me. Is they do a really, really good job of putting you in this weird dreamlike space. From the very get-go, like it starts off and then like this film is like, I can't tell if it's right to label it expressionism or not, but it feels just very that, like, you know, the characters, and they actually have that whole conversation in terms of like painting, you know, like I paint landscapes, some of them are sad. Well, how can a landscape be sad if there's no one sad in the landscape? How am I supposed to know it's sad? Like it does such a great job of fulfilling that sort of expressionistic thing where like simply because of like the you feel like you are lost in a snowstorm as they're driving through this blizzard, as she's going forward and she's like, Jesus Christ, I'm like going toward the opposite direction of where I want to be going. I'm going straight into a storm, you know? And like once you're in the storm, it's all sort of hazy and just listless almost, as they're stuck in this car just talking to each other rather begrudgingly at times, you know, because given the nature of their relationship, that's just what it is. This film does an excellent job of cultivating atmosphere, and that is my first good. And it has a psychological effect on the audience. That's just
absolutely
a filmmaker who knows what they're doing.
They do a really good job of making you feel like something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is something you mentioned off the record, is that it felt like it was gonna turn into a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like it felt all of the trappings of horror were there in this way where there's this unease that will not let up. It just won't go away.
And I think I do want to come back to that later when we get to like stuff that we were frustrated with about the film, because there's something there that I do want to talk about. But yeah, like it's like, again, that comes down to how the atmosphere they cultivated, you know, like, and that's through production design, that's through the performances, especially from the secondary characters, like the ancillary ice cream girls, you know.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So really, really remarkable in that regard. And like, I will watch it again to try to learn, because they're really good at what they do, even if that's something for another time. But that is like,
Agreed.
Word, I agree.
All right. So
that means it's your turn, Ben. What did you
what's
like?
your first good, Ben?
Well, since this is kind of a running theme for me, the narration. This is how you do narration. It's brilliant. It's an added element, almost a different character. It's just the way it works so fluidly in and out. How it progresses the story and how it is uniquely done. It's not necessarily done for exposition. It's done because that's what's in her fucking mind at the time. That's what she's thinking in that moment. It's not about what's going to happen soon. It's not what happens. It's like, no, I don't. And it keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's brilliant because when it's done for an effect. It's supposed to elicit a certain response from the audience and an emotion from the audience. I think the narration is stellar, and if anyone listens to Stream Theory, you hear me say that often. I will say watch this movie, at least the first half, to really understand how to effectively use a device like narration in a film. It's
absolutely Ben, and I think that one thing that this narration does that other narrations really don't do is that this is using narration to create a sense of internality.
Yeah.
It's like to create a space of being inside the head.
Yeah.
And most of the time people use narration as a way of cheap and shitty exposition.
Yep.
And this does not. I mean, and the thing is,
Yep.
there even is exposition in there, but it's like not, it's couched in this way where it's exposition colored by the person's
It drives the story
understanding
forward.
of reality. And it's very, very good narration. And I think it's really great.
Yeah.
Word. That's a good. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is definitely the best narration I've seen in a very long time.
Yep. All right. What's your second good, Matt?
Oh, my second good is that I feel that overall, the script, specifically the dialogue, the things that the characters say to each other, the scenes that they have are really, really good. It feels very natural, even as shit is getting like crazy and weird. And like surreal, the dialogue is this very naturalistic. It's really hard to do naturalistic dialogue that doesn't fucking suck. Like dialogue in general is actually quite hard, and dialogue usually tends towards this elevated style, where you're like, people don't talk like that. And for the most part, I mean, shit gets weird in this movie. Okay, guys, let's just put this out there. This movie is fucking bananas. Like,
Yes.
This movie is fucking nuts. Weird shit happens.
But like in a really like quiet way
that like makes you uncomfortable and stressed and makes you question everything you know.
Yeah.
I think though that part of the reason that it is so effective is because for the majority of it, the dialogue that they have is so mundane. It's so mundane and feels very much like those scenes of them being in the car where like they're talking feels like the world's most uncomfortable car ride. Like,
yeah.
In a way where I just 100% believed that was happening, even as things are falling into total disarray and, like existential chaos is setting in. I think the dialogue, the writing in general, and there's an asterisk in that I will get to later. The writing in general is very, very good. Specifically, the dialogue, I think is really like extremely, extremely well done. It's a Charlie Kaufman film. He knows how to write. Like he knows how to write shit. So that's my second good. E, what's yours? What's your second good?
Oh, mamma mia. Okay. The part of me wants to say the pacing, but I don't feel 100% comfortable saying that just yet. Because I do want to say this. I think this film is going to be much more enjoyable upon a second watch. I am currently like 1/3 to 25% of the way through my second watch. I tried to cram as much of it in as I could before we started this again, and sat down to record this. And I felt like I was more at ease with this because when I tried to watch this film, I knew it was a Charlie Kaufman film. And so when we get into this car and it's been 10 minutes in the car and we've been talking about poetry for 5 of them, I'm like, holy fuck, is this whole movie in the fucking car? So there was that sense of unease because I knew Kaufman's a weird fuck, and like if he wanted to do that, he would. But upon second viewing, I enjoyed the car sequence much more, knowing kind of what I was in for. And I think that's part of the frustration is like, I typically, as a general rule, enjoy Kaufman's work. I don't always love it. And so when I was sitting down for viewing 1, I was like, listen, fam, I'm into some weird fucking stories and shit. Like, I get that. And I'm into like tight, confined places, like, and intense character studies in those type of spaces. I don't entirely trust you, Mr. Kaufman, to take me on a journey yet. And so like the pacing on second viewing is much better. I think that it is confidently paced. And if I didn't know Charlie Kaufman's work, I would have enjoyed it more upon first viewing going in, because I wouldn't have been as nervous. So the pacing in this is good, and that is my second good thing, because, and this is something that I always credit to 2049, Blade Runner 2049's credit, is that they had a story that they wanted to tell, and sometimes if a director or writer isn't confident in the material, there is this manufactured sense of urgency that they try to do by shortening everything. Like, okay, like let's do quick cuts, quick, like let's like heighten the urgency and kineticism of our story through camera work as opposed to the actual story. And the pacing in this and in Blade Runner 2049, again, for me, and for comparison, like, they both set out to tell these stories, and there's always arguments to be made for cuts to any story, but they don't rush their stories. Like, they tell them in the amount of time that they felt was necessary, and for me, works in both respects. So the pacing in this, while it is a lengthy film, it is a confidently paced film. Never do I feel like they're like, all right, we got to get through the family stuff to get to back to the car. It's always like, we take our amount of time we need in family, we take our amount of time in car, we take our amount of time stopping to get snacks. Like it's always like very deliberate in the way that the film moves.
It is very deliberately paced. I think that is a very accurate assessment of it. Yeah.
All right. I guess it is my second.
'Tis indeed.
Everything in the house was great.
Yeah, that whole thing.
That is where the film got
That's
interesting
the best
for me
part
the first
of the film
time.
for me.
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, Toni Collette, it's so hard to you know.
It was
Oof.
just the real sense of dread in that house was brilliantly done. And then the passage of time, I was like, Charlie, bro, you got me here. I'm following and I'm not following, but I don't feel lost.
Yeah.
I could easily connect the dots. I understood. I was like, this is really cool. I would love to see where it goes from there. And I think it absolutely falls apart after that, but I will get into that in my bad. But up until this point, the movie had me. I was invested. I think it was solid. Writing, lighting, the thematics, the heavy thematics in this movie were all crystal clear, and the acting was the best here. Everyone had great timing, everyone had great chemistry, and everyone was listening to one another. And that's hard when you're dealing with such a zany and wild script. But yeah, that's my second good.
That's a great one. Yeah, that is a standout.
That is,
scene,
I mean, that
definitely.
whole thing is like, yeah, it's so good. It's so good,
brilliant.
Beginning to end. It makes you feel so many things. Because it's like super weird and tense, and then it's like funny, and then it's tense, and then it's like they do such a good job of like kind of the emotional ebb and flow of that scene is exquisite. And just as it develops and as it goes, it is more and more like all of it. It's more poignant. It's more weird. It's more like, it's just good. It's good stuff. I dig. I agree. All right. Those are our goods. And now it is time to transition into the bad. All right. So who wants to take the first bad?
I'll start it.
You got it.
Yeah, kick us off. What you got, Ben?
So one of your goods was writing. That's one of my bads.
Expound, please.
I will. Structurally, the script is amazing. There are beautiful themes in this. Some tough themes to deal with. However, and this may sound harsh, and I don't mean to offend anyone by saying this, but it seemed like it was self-pleasing, elitist drivel. It seemed like he was masturbating the entire time about how smart am I. Look at all these fucking beautiful references that I have that not too many people will, but the elite, and I love it. Look at this. How smart am I? I'm so smart right now. I am so smart. And I'm like, dude, I understand. You are brilliant. I understand you understand all these references. I get them. I understand most of them. I don't need all of that. I don't personally. I just did. It did not work for me at all in any of it. It honestly kind of made me mad. You see this often. I feel like with a lot of directors, maybe of his caliber, it's just like, look how smart fucking I am, and I get it. You're brilliant. I see the first half of this movie is absolutely almost a flawless movie. Then the second half, I'm like, oh my God, my guy, you're losing me here, and you're getting lost in your own bullshit. And it feels like this is just, you are now pleasing you. And I don't think you're pleasing anyone else. Because there's so many beautiful themes with toxic masculinity, misogyny, being stuck, feeling like there's nowhere to go. I get that. But after a certain point, it just becomes Charlie Kaufman in a movie, as opposed to this is Charlie Kaufman's movie. It's Charlie Kaufman, and now it's his movie.
I agree. I think there's a certain amount of name dropping that happens after a point when you're dealing with philosophical themes, that it's like, okay, yes, We get it. Like, we know you've read
Yeah.
so-and-so. We know.
So
We know.
I want to put some pushback on this.
Okay.
I don't think you're wrong. I do think that's there. But I also think that was intentional. Part of the problem, I'm going to try really hard to do this without spoiling anything.
Okay.
Part of the character that we recognize as existing, right? Because like this movie has like a kind of quote unquote secret that sort of is revealed. I don't know, maybe. But I think the whole idea is that there's so many things that are like, there's so many bits of dialogue and so many ideas and so many things that are cribbed from other things. I mean, there's a speech at the end that's literally torn from A Beautiful Mind. There's a bit where in the latter half where she's talking about a woman under the influence, where she is saying verbatim a review by a famous film critic whose book is in his childhood bedroom. And to me, the thing is that I think that it's not Charlie Kaufman. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. But if I'm going to give Charlie Kaufman the benefit of the doubt, I think that he is trying to have that through the character's perspective. That it's the character who is reassuring himself
Who feels
how
the need
smart
to
he
be
is.
smart.
Like, how like I am smart. I am like, I was never the smartest kid. I was never, I always worked hard, but like, I am smart, damn it. Like, look at the names I can drop. Look at the references I can make. Even as things are unraveling. I think that it's probably, I think that was probably the intention of it. I do think it goes a little far in it, and you could have rolled it back a tiny bit.
I was going to say, I think that you do make a very, very fine point there, but there is a point where it's like, there's still a lot, like Charlie Kaufman put all the words, because it is adapted from a book.
It is.
Whomever wrote that stuff put all those names in, put those names on the page. So whomever did that,
I forgot about
there's
the
a little bit
adaptation,
of them, like, regardless of character in the film, that is like,
Sure. The thing is that I do think it's possible to be like an intellectual without being a dick.
100%,
However,
yeah.
I do think that I do think this doesn't fully make it. I am willing to give Kaufman the benefit of the doubt in terms of intention, if not in execution.
That's fair. I
Right.
do, and I don't know if this was intentional as well, because I don't like either of them. I actually despise both these characters, terribly so. I do feel for the woman in this position, because I can only understand how toxic and everything that relationship is, and must be hard for her. I do, but I don't like it either of them. And I think a lot of the time she also quips back with name drops and everything. I guess that is to further give us an idea of maybe she's saying, hey, I'm also smart. I get where you're coming from. But at the same time, it just feels to me that they're both just annoyingly elitist. That's, again, maybe that's the point. But then again, after the second half of this movie, I don't fucking know what the point of a lot of it is.
The problem is that I really want to talk about what the fuck happens with this movie.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
hey, hold up.
This is your fucking...
I have a thought. How about this? Here's what we're going to do. We are going to have this thing spoiler free, and then afterward, we're going to record a little separate thing in which we talk about what we think, the fuck we think is going on in this movie. And we'll just put that out there and be like, hey, don't listen to this until you've watched the movie.
That's
and then,
fine.
because I really want to talk about this movie, but also it's
Right.
So I think the thing is, I think you're right that it gets it gets self-congratulatory. It gets a little like onanistic. It gets a little like smug.
Just a little bit, which is fine. I can do smug, but it's just like at a certain point, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like,
I think there could have been slightly less in the. There was a bit, right, like when she's doing that whole like movie review where I was like, we're still going, huh? Like,
yeah.
you're just gonna read the whole fucking thing, aren't you? Cool. Okay.
It's just like,
and yeah, I think that there's something to be said for that.
It's also fair to trust Charlie Kaufman, I completely understand the pushback. I'm sorry if I was too harsh, but I was just
No, I think it's fair.
Right. It's just
yeah. As I said, I think the intention can be understood and forgiven, even if its execution strays into the like, look at me, aren't I smart kind of territory. It definitely has that vibe, regardless of intention. It definitely has that vibe.
It does, and yeah.
And I said this off record that I think is a point to you, Ben. Like, I was frustrated that this film felt like it was actively trying to dissuade a certain class of people from watching it. Like, that's not my fucking jam.
Yep, that's exactly the feel. And I just feel like there are multiple ways. I think Matt, you may have mentioned it to show and display intellect. Than those. I mean, granted, people do display intellect like that. So you kind of write yourself into a trap with that, bar none. You just do, because that is a lot. That is a way that elitist motherfuckers and classist pieces of shit display intellect, and thus he was also displaying that intellect because it is him. I won't get into any spoilers, but it would make sense, but at the same time I feel like there could have been an effective way to not do so much. And I'm getting into my point again, so I'm gonna give another point because this movie is literally racking my brain. My brain's melting through my ears right now just talking about it. So
oh boy, do I know that. I know.
I could go on all day.
So what's
okay, so I'll take a bad, because I had kind of touched on it earlier. My first bad is that we talked about how the environment was so unsettling, that to the point where it began to feel like a horror movie at times. In fact, we even have a few horror movie tropes. The basement door that is like taped shut with scratches on it and like shit like that, Ron Howard once said that genre is a promise to the audience about what a story is going to give them, and in order for them to have a truly excellent time, the best genre movies fulfill their genre promise. If it's an action movie, there will be explosions or tense scenes. If it's a romance, there will be love, stuff like that. This film, we never received the catharsis of a genre from this film. It sets up all of these horrific sort of thriller tropes, and then there is no catharsis from it. Like, there's like questions are asked, yes, but like the unsettling nature doesn't necessarily yield to much of anything. It sort of comes, you feel uncomfortable about it, and then like it sort of just slowly fades. Like, because I feel like first act, we get the cars, we get all the exposition, and it's like a little tense because it's close quarters, and like, she doesn't want to be there and she's going directly into the direction that she doesn't want to be going. And then second act, we get like all the heebie-jeebies. Like, we finally show up and, like, people are saying ominous things and just stuff is going goofy. And there's never the catharsis of, like, an actual moment where I'm like, okay, like, I was promised something scary and something scary happened. Or, like, so that catharsis was never there for me. That's what I needed. It kept trying to amp and build all of this stuff up, and then it just never there was never any release. And for me, that it lessened my overall enjoyment in the end of the film. If that was their intention, kudos. But at the end of the film, I was like, oh, you got me all riled up for nothing.
That actually was expressly the intention. So Charlie Kaufman actually famously doesn't talk about his movies, but one thing he did say was that I'm gonna bleep this next part out. So the bit with the like bizarre fucking in the that was intentionally done to like subvert the expectation of the viewer. This whole time it's been like building toward something, building toward this tension, building toward this like fucking like strange, like you're waiting for something to fucking happen, and then they're like, this is what's happening, and then afterward they like come back with, kind of it back into the weird, like full force, with.
So, yeah. And I say to that, like, fantastic. They definitely are accomplished storytellers in that regard, because that's exactly what happened. That's not the sort of story that I enjoy or that I want to see necessarily like that, you know? Like, I think there are exceptions to every rule. There are definitely films that I've seen that subvert my expectations at the end or go a completely different route in terms of, like, what I had thought was going to be my catharsis, you know? Like, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. I don't necessarily need it. This story, with all of its weird themes and shit, I was just sort of like, well, okay then, you know, that's fine. And then we're gonna end with a song from Oklahoma. I just, okay,
Yeah,
great. Let's do that then.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're ultimately right.
Oh, it was so, like, and I was really excited. Like, I didn't even mind the I was like, okay, we're going to communicate this information this way. Fine. But then, like, yeah, if you want your story to just end and not, like you still make your statement an ending, but not having a catharsis, that's fine. It didn't work for me in this instance. Again, they executed what they meant to perfectly. It just wasn't, I guess it wasn't my palate. But that is my second bad, or I guess that's my first bad. That there was a sense of unease that pretty much it was quite effectual, but in the end amounted to relatively nothing.
Yeah. And my first bad kind of is related to that, but in a slightly different way. So you're talking about emotional catharsis, is that I feel that this movie does itself a disservice by not clarifying anything. I feel like it in its attempt. The way I was talking to you about this, Ian, beforehand was like, you know, you always like to reference the, like, don't give them 4, give them 2 + 2 of the Coen brothers. And I said that this movie is not even 2 + 2. It's like X + Y = ? And then you have to solve for X. And you're like, cool. I don't know what X is. And
there's literally no information for me to contextualize X. Like,
yeah, it's like all of the, like, my whole theory and everything is just based on inference, and, you know, and I'm pretty comfortable in it, but at the same time, you know, it's almost as if they were so enjoying being obtuse that they forgot to tell a story, like that, like we're watching these kind of set pieces that sort of blend together but don't really blend together, and like they aren't really informed. Like, you are informed by them, but they are not informed. There is no causal chain. There is no, like, development. And again, I get that that's the point, but, like, there's a reason that we have structures for storytelling. And it's because those structures work. And you can do weird shit, and you can fuck around with it, and you can mess with it to great success. And Charlie Kaufman has made an entire career off of doing just that. But I feel like this movie goes too far into that and winds up shooting itself in the foot because it's so easy to write it off.
Exactly. I say a movie that does it really well. If one we reviewed previously, I still would have liked just 5% more of structure and threads, but just to contrast, to juxtapose The Lighthouse. Yeah. It does, it's fucking out of control, but there's enough thread for me to be like, okay.
Yeah.
There's just enough to me to walk that line.
There's just something to ground you.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, I'm reminded of, like, playing games or, like, puzzles that are, like, you know, done in ill faith, where, like, not to plunge us 120% into the fucking realmdom of nerd shit, but, like, in D&D, if you're playing with a dungeon master that gives you a puzzle and just, like, willfully obscures a crucial part of the puzzle, like, or something, you know, like, they just don't, like, if the puzzle's not fair, it's not fun to play.
And that I think is really, I think that's really true of this, is that this isn't a fair puzzle. You're not given the pieces. You know, you're not like, any amount of extrapolation you're doing
is going to be speculative.
Yeah, and that was another thing I said off record, right, to this end, is that there are some movies that invite the audience to do work and that your experience will be richer for it. This movie, like, demands it and is like, no, if you want to get something out of this, you better fucking work for it. Like, I'm not giving you shit. And it just makes for a very alienating viewing process.
Well, and I don't want people to think that I'm asking for all of this to be spoon-fed to us or anything, but I think there are examples of films with obtuse stories and obtuse storytelling that like, as you said, they don't spell it out, but they give you the puzzle pieces in a little bit more of a fair manner. You know, like you are actually presented the information and you do the math.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Womp womp. Are we on the second round now? We got to come up with a second round of bats?
We're on second round. Ben, what you got?
It's me. Okay. Oh boy. This movie's too long. I know you had a thing about this last week, Ian, but I'm about that being a tough criticism to levy, because what does that mean? What does that entail? I think a lot of the dialogue in the car, both scenes, could have been cut. I think some of even though I love the house scene, I love it. That alone it's worth, my 50 cents, but some of that could have been cut.
Yeah.
This movie could be a nice 145. I think it would help with Kaufmaning it up.
Kaufmaning.
Yeah, Kaufman, whatever. That would, coughing it up, let's just say that. It would help him get out of his own fucking way if he just got, say, about 15, 20 minutes. I think it just makes it more clear.
That's actually, this is one instance where I think that is 100% valid, because to touch back on what we said earlier, like, there comes a point where it's like, we get it. You read a lot of, like, fucking intelligent literature. Like, that fucking rocks. But also, like, the purpose of the car scene is to establish that, like, their relationship is kind of cold.
You
can do that
soon.
Yeah, you establish that soon, and, like, you want to draw that out. I get it. Like, it's like, yeah, you don't need to. You can draw that out and still find a happy medium between, like, having that uncomfortableness linger and then just, like, plodding along. You know?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So that's an excellent point.
It is too long. Yeah, enough said.
Enough said, yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Love to see someone fight me on, like, why every single fucking moment in this movie is necessary, because guess what? You don't know what every single fucking moment means. None of us do. I know Charlie does.
And maybe he doesn't either. It's just like, whatever. It looks good on screen.
Yeah. Fuck. All right, Ian, what is your second bad?
All right, my second bad is that I'm not crazy about, and again, I think this tied into sort of the feelings of elitism that I felt. Something like, I'm tired of seeing janitors denigrated in popular media. I'm tired of seeing like blonde pretty people like being almost unanimously sort of portrayed as vapid and flat. That's not to say that a lot, like, because guess what? Hey, vapid flat people come in all shapes and sizes. But this fucking film in particular took time out of its way to, like, sort of disparage typically quote unquote attractive folks, and like was like posited the question of, like, I don't know, maybe pretty people do suffer, huh? And I'm just like, come on, you fucking pricks. And also, like, the janitors are fucking kick-ass people. They put up with so much fucking shit. And, like, you know what? They're not defined by their fucking jobs. They go and clean your fucking shit and then go live a rich life. I know, big statement to say in a capitalist society.
This is America.
Yeah,
we are
dude.
only defined by our labor output and how it benefits the rich, okay? That is all we're worth. Your emotions don't mean fucking shit. If you're a janitor, if you're Elon Musk, your emotions are the most important thing on earth. But, you know, if you're a janitor, like, nah, man, fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck you.
And I'm just like, that was like stuff that didn't sit well with me the whole time. I was like, this fucking janitor dude just being a janitor dude, like, it is, and we'll talk about this afterward in the post discussion with theories about blah 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 and whatnot. It is thematically appropriate, I guess, but, like, I'm tired of seeing that shit in my popular media. Like, I'm just like, I'm not about it. And, like, you know, like the othering of, like, people and just, like, breeding contention of, like, you know, like, oh, the stereotypical pretty ones, but, like, you're not stereotypically pretty. You're, like, pretty in that way that, like, you know, like, you haven't been coddled like the pretty ones, but you're still pretty. And it's just like, I'm not here for that fucking vibe. We're all humans dealing with shit. And, like, yeah, I'm just tired of seeing that shit in popular media. And, like, when Kaufman was doing it, coupled with, like, the very valid complaints that, like, there are very rarely any people of color who speak in his films, like, all of that, I was just sort of like,
yeah,
I need you to grow, and I need you to grow quick, dude, if you want me to keep, like, getting hype about your art.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like, that was just sort of my... So that's my second bad. That's where I come from with that shit.
I think there's also this kind of weird thing where he, like, you know, there's that whole conversation over the course of the film where they're talking about how movies and TV are bad because they, like rabies, replace...
Yeah, they're like cancerous.
Yeah, they like replace yourself with them, and like and then there's all this stuff where it's like you see that he's been informed by all of these tropes and all these things, but then also this movie is falling to tropes and failing to reckon with that. And I think that ties into the classism, I think, that is inherent in this movie. You know, it's that they're...
And who knows, maybe this episode blows up because someone who really loves Kaufman is like, no, fuck you, that's the point. Like, he was indoctrinated to think all that and yada, and like that's great that's your
that's
reading and takeaway of it.
If you want that, you have to fucking make that the case. You can't just do this thing where you like leave it open to interpretation and then only accept the most generous interpretations. Like, you gotta, you know, it's like, it's the same reason why J.K. Rowling is a fucking coward. And, you know, it's because, like, no, Dumbledore wasn't written as gay. He wasn't. He was written as a sexless old man. You can't fucking say that just because you want some brownie points. Also, remember when she did that as opposed to just, like, fucking being a anti-trans monster? Remember when people were mad at her for making Dumbledore gay as opposed to outing herself as the worst human on Earth? Like,
no.
Oh man,
simpler times, I tell you.
Yeah, and everyone and I was so pissed at her then because I was like, you are a coward. You're looking for brownie points. You're looking for brownie points. And now I don't know what she's looking for. I think she's just fucking looking for, I don't know, an invite from Donald Trump. What does she want? Like, what's her thing? I don't get it.
I have no fucking clue.
It's like Steven Spielberg coming out and it's like, Indiana Jones is gay the entire time.
Like, exactly. And you're like, well, that's interesting because, like, he definitely didn't seem it. You didn't do anything.
Queer baiting us?
So I don't remember if this is entirely accurate because my memory could be failing me here, but the fact that it is so plausible speaks volumes about her as a person. Didn't she recently, like, retroactively be like, oh yeah, there were a bunch of Jewish students at Hogwarts. For instance, there was like so-and-so and so, and so-and-so and so, and she just put names that are nowhere in the book. I think
she name dropped like one person who had like a vaguely Jewish sounding name, who is not one of the main characters.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's also the fact that when people point out that like there are basically no like characters of color and she was like, well, you know, Hermione could be black. I never wrote her as white. And I'm like, fuck you. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Don't fucking lie. Stop lying. Stop lying to people trying to make yourself look good. Like, you know, the way it's supposed to go is you do a thing and then someone's like, hey, you could do this better. And you're like, okay, I'll do it better. And then if you're a good person, you try and do it better. And instead, she was just like, no. I did good. It's there. I did the good. And then proceeded to turn into a fucking psychopath. Like she went the opposite wrong direction. She was like, I was good, but now I am evil. But we're talking about Charlie Kaufman. We're not talking about J.K. Rowling.
Oh fuck, we were, huh?
This is all just like an aside in the car, you know.
Pretty much.
I need a second bad. I don't know, dude.
You got this, I believe.
I know.
In a thing called love.
I think the whole snack freezy, like getting the ice cream thing was like totally unnecessary. I think that scene in general did not inform anything. I think it.
All it does is continue.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that whole scene could have
I'm
been
right there with
cut
you.
because the whole thing is it's like, oh, all it does is give them an excuse to need to get rid of the ice creams. But it's like it doesn't inform anything. It doesn't inform the characters, and it makes it take way too long. And I feel like it fails to further anything apart from like I guess if you're taking it from the the fucking point that I have made about who the character really is, I guess it kind of makes sense. But again, because you don't put any real chips on the table, you're just using your theoretical FACO new Bitcoin style Kaufman currency that you just you say is worth all this money, and we're like, oh, I guess it is. I'm hallucinating actively right now while I'm trying to talk about this. What is happening? Dude, it's just like, yeah, that scene doesn't inform anything. Other scenes do, even if they're kind of shitty. Like, that scene marks a moment that doesn't need to exist and could have been done better in other ways. And it just does not.
And it just adds more questions to the pile with, again, this is where, there's a whole thing about varnish, because, again, without spoiling too much, and her talk, one of the icy girls comes out talking about, what they do in the back. And it seems like maybe there is a thread that I'm missing here, but it's just a creepy thing. That's all. Just there's an implication that something is happening in the back of this ice cream
and then
shop.
you're like,
that's
what?
not what it seems.
Yeah, you're like, what? What is it? Are we going to find out? No. All right, we're moving on. Okay.
No, okay, cool.
Thanks, Charlie.
We're just going to keep moving along.
Thanks,
we're not going to
Chuck.
figure out why the young woman has rashes all over her. All right, tight.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going.
And then she's like, I'm afraid for you. And you're like, why? Bye. Okay. All right.
yeah.
Cool, good job.
Okay, tight.
Yeah, it was just very arbitrary. It's just like, you might as well just have him get out of the car and his dick just flies off. And you just, where does his dick go? And what happened to his dick? Did it fall off? Did it not fall off? I thought I saw his dick fall off. Then he continues to get back in the car, and they throw away the ice cream in the waste bin near his dick.
And that's all. Yep. And then when you cut to the bin, you realize that it's actually filled to the brim with identical dicks and ice cream.
Yeah.
cups.
Each ice cream has a dick
like-
stuck in it, like a straw, where the straw should be.
That's how you make sure it's done right. They turn it upside down, and if the dick stays in, you made the burr
made
right.
the burr.
And
right.
what does that mean? They don't tell us.
Yeah. This fucking movie. Okay.
It's because you're 100% right, Ben. It doesn't fucking matter. It could have been anything. It was just.
It was another thing that then would not be. And it again, it's this thing where it's like, if what you're going for is atmosphere and feeling, then yeah, sure. But also, you can't. Man does not live by atmosphere alone. You need, you need to have something.
If you have no intention of paying off said atmosphere or feeling, why are you cultivating?
So it's like a shepherd tone, man. It's just rising and rising and rising and rising, and it never goes anywhere. And then eventually it stops, and you're like,
eventually I turn it off, and I go listen to something more pleasant.
Yeah.
But that is also to push back. But I can't believe I'm doing this. But there's a moment where her photo. She's a photographer, correct?
Yeah.
Painter.
Yeah, a painter. Sorry, I don't know why I thought photos. A painter of landscapes, and the landscape is supposed to tell you of how that the feeling is without someone in it, right? Is that kind of what the atmosphere is doing here?
Yeah, I think so.
So I said earlier that this film's cultivation of atmosphere is very expressionistic in that way. They have that whole philosophical thing at the dining table, which I appreciated because, again, it was talking about expressionism, again, talking about philosophical ideas without being a pompous dick. They were talking about expressionism without being like, yes, well, Van Gogh believed that, you didn't have to do that. It was just these two ideologies that are opposed, meaning, I like paintings that look like photographs.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
Why don't you go look at photographs?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do landscapes that are sad. I do landscapes that are happy. How can that be? A land is a land. Is there a sad person in there? No. Okay, that's great because we're talking about philosophical ideas without name dropping like a doofus.
Still ineffective.
But yeah, largely at the end of the day, like you cultivate all that and like you don't pay it off. I don't know.
Yeah, I get.
It's like he farmed for an entire season to use the setting of this, and then just burned all the crop at the end and was like, "Look at the smoke." Like,
yeah, isn't that meaningful?
cool.
And you're like, I fucking guess. Like,
I guess, but hey, you know who could have used that food? Starving children or
Right.
something. I don't know. Like,
literally, also me. Like, literally, we could have been
also
eating.
me, yeah.
We could have been eating right now, and instead, yeah.
Or
Charlie just wanted to burn it all.
Or you could have looked in that waste bin and seen a bunch of dicks. And one of the dicks turns to you and says, "Get out. You're in trouble."
Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
See, I can write. I should be in that writer's room with Charlie Kaufman. He would have took my idea.
I
Can you imagine if Charlie
love the
Kaufman
idea.
and-
I like that you think Charlie Kaufman has a writer's room, as if anyone is
Yeah,
allowed
right.
near his writing process.
Foolishness of BT. What folly.
His writing process is like him, a desk, and like probably, I don't know, some magic mushrooms. Who fucking knows? And then he's just like, I wrote a thing, and people are like, great, you editing it? No, you're right. You're making it right now? Oh, God.
Oh, that's too good. Okay, what's the next? Who has the next bad?
That was the final bad.
That might
was
be
the
it.
final bad.
Okay,
now
cool,
we're going
cool,
on
cool,
to the
cool.
reboot.
Oh, fuck.
Ian, you have not started a
Right.
segment yet, so you got to go first.
Yeah,
Okay, I gotta remake
Yeah,
this.
you got to
movie.
remake
Does
this
it have to be
movie.
this one?
you do.
Okay. I start everything out with and then just a long crawl of orange text like goes up the screen.
Stop.
And I just tell you what's about to happen. So that way we don't have to waste fucking time where you guess about it. And then I go ahead and I make the movie, you know? And I'm just like, hey, listen, you're about to watch something really weird. And it's like really symbolic and really metaphorical. And just keep that in mind. And so like, it's going to be a little bit tense, but nothing's really going to happen. So just like chill out and fucking watch the film. And then like, I probably cut a little bit from both car sequences. I think there's ways to tighten that and get that down. I definitely cut like any moment where they just fucking are quoting text for like
Minutes.
like 3 pages of text. Like I trim that down. I don't mind the ballet. I like the ballet. That's sweet and idyllic. I get rid of the othering bullshit. And yeah, I try to have it be just a little more creepy. If we're gonna go creepy, like go a little bit of creepy and then end with like something bright, you know? Like, I don't know. But that's my
Word. All right.
That's my remake. Yeah, I don't mind too much about like what the story does, but I do just like want decisions to be made about the story. Like I want there to be a question asked and answered.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So that was my half bullshit remake. Thank you for indulging me in my shitty joke.
No, it's fine. It's a hard thing to remake.
I mean, yeah.
Like, what do you do? Yeah.
What do you do?
Matt, do you want to go? 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
I will. I actually think that what I would do is I wouldn't make this a movie. I would make it a play.
Okay.
I think that this movie has a lot of theatrical elements to it that I think would. I mean, it's literally like 2 of the longest scenes of it are just people sitting in a car. There's really very little of it that truly needs to be a movie. And certain elements would have to change, obviously, because you can't, do something. But I would do a multimedia theater experience. I would have the janitor character out in the lobby during the opening being a janitor, and then kind of start in the process of cleaning, and kind of so that the audience is like, what the fuck is going on? And think that this disruptive janitor guy is fucking some shit up, and then have it slowly incorporate. And again, you have to have some sort of end point that means something. And I think that, so, you'd have to clarify a couple things. You'd have to have a thesis statement that actually is a statement.
Statement, yeah. Yeah. Yep, agreed.
Even though, because it doesn't have to be so extreme, because if movie or plays like Waiting for Godot, are very, very absurd and very loose and are open to interpretation. But at the end of the day, there's something there. There's something inherent to them that speaks to something. And I feel like in the remake of this, it would have to have some sort of furthered opinion. Yeah, and I would absolutely cut down on the random quotes and shit, because, geez, come on.
Just painful.
Yeah, it's just slightly too long. I think the most egregious of which was her film review.
Yeah.
Because it just kept going. And you're like, we get it. We get it.
The poem, too, though. Like, I liked the poem, but, like, in the first car sequence where she reads some of her poetry, and it is like a four is extreme, but it's like a 2-ish minute monologue. I was like, okay, this coupled with like the glacial pacing of the past few minutes, like sorry, we're out of this segment. We're on to the remakes. I'm done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's what I would do, is I would make it a play, reconfigure it a little bit, do some cutting, and make sure that there's a proper thesis statement. Because I think you could do some really fun stuff with it as a play. So, yeah.
I think that's really smart. I wish I'd thought of that, goddammit. Excuse me, that was...
All
right, Ben, what is your remake?
Fuck, dude. I don't know.
I know.
Right?
Here, I really do like the first half of this movie, so I wouldn't change too much. Once you get in the house, though, I would lean into those elements a lot more. Specifically with like the element of the dog, which I I thought that was really cool, and I kind of had, and I knew that would take place as soon as I saw the dog and how it interacted with its surroundings. The aging, the time going backwards and forward, and the general displacement of time was interesting. I would continue that, and give us a little bit more clarity to reach that ending, give us some more threads, cut down on those car scenes, and yeah, just get us there with us a little help. I would get us there with just a little help. The ice cream scene we don't need, unless you could do the ice cream scene if you explain it, if it comes back, if it makes its case, if you get that payoff at the end of the movie explaining that. I don't need you to spoon feed me. I won't spoon feed the audience, but I will give you a little bit something to take home and to sit on with. How I do that, I don't fucking know. Because I'm not Charlie Kaufman. I don't know what it's like to be in that dude's fucking mind. Me rebooting it, dude, that's the best I can do.
We can be gracious with ourselves with these reboots too, because you got to keep in mind, we are conceptualizing a movie in about 30 seconds when he had 2 years to make whatever this thing was.
Yeah, that's the best I could do. So that's my reboot.
Oh, all right. And now it's on to the ratings.
This is going to be interesting.
Now it's that time, baby.
It's that time.
All right, Matt, what do you give this movie?
So despite all of my criticisms of it, I still ultimately enjoyed this movie, and this is not a movie for everyone. This is a movie for people who really like Charlie Kaufman. And not even like we're talking like if you were like, "Oh yeah, I thought being John Malkovich was fun." No, we're talking like if you're all up in Synecdoche, New York, if that's where you're at, then this movie is for you. If not, maybe. So I'm kind of torn, because like this is, unfortunately, I don't think this movie can be a must-watch. I think it is ultimately too flawed, and it will turn off way too many people. I'm gonna call it's on the list. But the big caveat for that is you gotta like Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah, that's a big yeah.
Yeah, this movie cannot be in the background. This movie is not something for the background.
There's no way.
So like that was my struggle with the rating, is that like on enjoyment level terms, like this is mid-tier for me. This is something for the background. But as you've said, Matt, like this movie demands attention. You can put it on the background, nothing's gonna happen. Like if you're not like actively pouring energy into it. To piggyback on Synecdoche, New York, they give you the puzzle pieces with that one. Like that is a puzzle I enjoy undoing, because like so long as you're paying attention, you will get the pieces.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I'm doing a split. I'm gonna split my rating and say like for me it is something for the background. If you're just trying to cultivate like a blue, sad atmosphere while you're vacuuming, I don't know why, but go ahead, put it on in the background. If you are someone who like just wants to put on something fucking weird, like maybe you're looking to fucking trip on mushrooms, I'm gonna tell you there's better choices. You're gonna have a better trip with something else. But
No,
like,
go outside.
This could
Don't
be
watch this
could
movie.
be
Go
on the
outside.
list.
Look at trees.
Right. For someone who's like looking for, maybe they're a Kaufman fan, or maybe they are just trying to get inspiration for expressionism. I don't know what. This could very easily be, and it's on the list. But yeah, I'm split. And
That's fair.
Yeah. What about you, Ben?
I didn't like this movie at all. It is not my jam. And I do like some
Legit.
Kaufman stuff, like some stuff. I'm like, all right, this is okay. But he is polarizing. Some people love him, some people don't. I'm one of those rare exceptions when I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of indifferent. This is one of those movies of his that I just can't get into. And that's a personal preference. So I'm going to say I would rather drink a day-old expired milk than to watch this movie. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. Mm-hmm. The first half, brilliant. I would put that on the list to must watch, because if you're at all a film major, writer, you should probably watch this movie. He does a lot of great things. Second half was so bad to me that it drops all the way down to that. I don't care. And maybe it's because it's super white. Maybe it's because it's elitist. Maybe I just really hated the main characters. It's hard to quantify in an episode of an hour and some change, but it's not my jam.
Yeah.
So I would rather drink day-old expired milk, like actual milk. I'm a vegan, and I would.
I know.
rather drink
I was thinking
dairy.
about that in terms of the implications.
Yeah. And that's where I stand. I'm sorry if anyone is like, Ben, what the fuck? You get off, leave. I was like, okay. But that's where I stand.
I love it.
All right.
Yep.
Stay true, be yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I think this was like
Can find it on Netflix.
it's on Netflix. Watch it or don't, depending on your preference.
Or don't.
I honestly, I feel like this was the hardest movie to do this for, because it's like so.
Yeah, it sits in a very weird place.
does.
Yeah,
for me, we're
it's like rating your dreams based on the system.
Right.
Where you're like, what were two
Right.
good things about your dream? And you're like, there was a bucket that was really cool. And at one point, I was in the car and it was snowing and it was really pretty. What were the bad things? There was a pig. I don't know, man. What would I dream again? I don't want to dream this again. That was a weird. It was
Right,
a
exactly.
weird dream. What do you mean? I have to? Ah, shit. Like, yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't quite track.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's definitely a tough movie to.
Well,
to
and I
rate and
think
review.
for me, it's because there is something masterful here. Like, you can tell that everyone knows what they're doing, and it's executed technically well, but like, I don't like the product still.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
That's kind of where I fall
Word.
too. And sometimes when you like it, no matter how good a movie is, sometimes if it's just not your jam, it's just not your jam.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
shit.
Do you have another movie for next week?
Yes. Yes. Next week, we are going to be reviewing The Devil All the Time. We did the trailer for that in Trailer versus Trailer recently, and it just dropped on Netflix, and I think it's going to be a fun, much more linear ride, so that'll be refreshing, I think.
Delusion!
Delusions!
Yes.
Fucking spiders to the face.
Oh
I
boy,
can't
that's
fucking-
gonna be fun. Well, all right, guys. Why don't you tell the people who you are? Ian, why don't you tell the people who you are? Sorry, this movie is still.
It's still swimming. I get it.
Tell the
I'm
people
still,
who you
yeah.
are, how to find you, and I don't know, dude. What's your favorite cut of steak? I don't know.
My name is Ian Gabriel Gonzalez Muentener. You can find me on Twitter as Sir Yikesalot at BabyGotKnack. You can find me on Facebook as Ian Muentener if you want to try to care to spell that. Or you can find me on Instagram as SockNinja888. And my favorite cut of steak would probably be... I'm going to go with Porterhouse.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I am the most well versed in steak cuts. I had a little bit of experience working at a steakhouse for a matter of months before they shut down very abruptly. pre-COVID, which is the fun part. So yeah, that was my favorite steak that I got to try in the time there. That was my favorite cut that I got.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Matt, why don't you tell the people who you are, where they can find you, and what is your favorite condiment?
All right. So the movie we're watching today is I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It was directed and written by Charlie Kaufman, based on a book by Ian Reid.
Oh, God.
And it's starring Jesse Plemons, Jesse Buckley, Toni
back to the
Collette,
beginning.
David
Oh my God,
Thewlis,
what's-
and Guy
There's
Boyd.
no time.
What is happening?
We need to assemble the Tesseract
We've been
so we
here
can
before.
So my name is Matt Frost. You can find me on Facebook as Matt Frost. You can find me on Instagram as Spider and Bee, like the tattoos on my arms. And you can find me on my website at mattfrost.media. And, I am the producer and audio editor for this show. I'm also doing some other things, writing 2 screenplays, doing some short stories, and I got a couple other podcasts that are going to be coming out soon. And my favorite condiment. Okay. So I think probably my most used condiment is soy sauce. It's a really nice way to add some salt, but also add some flavor. I put that shit on everything. However, my favorite condiment is actually a hot sauce brand called Picamas. That is kind of hard to come by. While I was working at in my old restaurant job, the cooks turned me on to it. They had a little bottle back there. It's a nice hot sauce. It's got a little bit of heat, but it's mostly vinegar and flavor. So it's actually a hot sauce that tastes like something as opposed to just kind of being spicy. Yeah.
Fire.
And that for me was kind of revelatory, because I always kind of I felt like sriracha did that at first, but I got really bored with the taste of sriracha because it's so it's such a specific flavor and it doesn't always mesh well. I don't want sriracha on my tacos.
True.
I want picamas on my tacos. And that's
fair.
That's my shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Ben, who are you? Where are you? What are you doing? Where can they find you? Why? And what's your favorite style of seat? What's your favorite kind of thing to sit on?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Ben. Hey, y'all. You can find me on Twitter at BTJenkins91. You can find me on Facebook at Benjamin Timothy Jenkins. You could find me on Instagram at BenBolio91. You can also find me on my website, BenjaminTimothyJenkins.com. I'm currently residing in Chicago. It's gonna get cold soon, so that's lovely. And my favorite style of sitting apparatus. I like a couch. I like an in-round couch, actually. I know they aren't necessarily in style anymore, but I love a nice long in-round couch because I could sit, I could take a nap. I used to sleep on couches all the time. That's just my jam.
Oh, yeah.
Not so much anymore, but yeah, you give me a nice long fucking in-round couch, give me it in front of a TV, I probably won't move for days.
Word.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, we had quite a movie this week, and it was fun. And like we always do, it's always great to talk with you gentlemen. It's always a good time, and I can't wait for next week for our next movie. And we know things are getting pretty tough here. Shout out to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's family. And her passing is very sad, and we're kind of fucked, but hopefully things will get better. We have to fight hard because she fought hard her entire life, and she's resting now, and now it's up to us to make sure we use our voices adequately and in the best of our ability, whatever that may be. However you can do that, and we get that. We understand that a lot of stuff's going on. It's going to be a supremely conservative Supreme Court, most likely, and people's rights might be taken away, but we have to band together, stick together. And you're like, hey, Ben, there's a lot of fucking shit in the world going on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch the latest Charlie Kaufman movie. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch whatever you're talking about. We don't know. I just don't know. Don't worry, because we got you. Because we're Too Many Flicks, and we watch all of the flicks.
So that you don't have to. Hey friends, thank you so much for tuning in again to another installment of Stream Theory. We really hope you are enjoying these. We really love making them for you. We know that we have changed up the segments and structure of the episodes a little bit. We would be so curious to hear your feedback. Also, maybe we haven't covered something that we should cover, or we just haven't talked about something, or you disagree with some of our opinions in these stream theories. Whatever the case, however you want to reach out and interact with us, you can do so on our social media pages. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as Too Many Flicks with a number 2 at the beginning and an X at the end. You can also find us at our Gmail account, which is toomanyflicks.chicago@gmail.com. We are also working on revamping the Patreon, getting a bunch of cool, new, fun ideas and merch and rewards up there for the people who do help us out over there. A huge shout out to you all. You're fantastic, especially Natalie Cole, who has been there since nearly day one. All of you mean the world to us, and thank you for your support there. But we recognize that these are crazy times, so not everyone can support financially. Doing something like commenting or liking or subscribing on whatever platform you're tuning in on means its weight in gold to small podcasts like us. And finally, we know that it is an absolute madhouse out there, and there are so many more important things that require your attention at this time. We just hope that we can provide you with a little reprieve, a little solace from the madness that has become our world, because it certainly functions as that for us, and we're happy to share that. We just want to finish by saying, it's crazy out there, we understand. Please wear your masks, please wash your hands, Black Lives Matter, and stay safe. We love you.
Okay. So what the fuck was that movie?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're here now.
Yeah,
okay,
we're here
great.
now.
Good. Good, great, grand.
Yeah. Okay. So my whole thinking on this movie, right, is that this is all some sort of like so there are signs throughout that connect Jake to the janitor.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how he's seen all these kids in various things. Like, he's talked about all the plays he's seen. All of the plays that he selected were like plays that kids would totally do in high school productions. And later on, you know, the like parents talk about his 50th birthday, and he's like, don't you mean 20th? Woo! And like, there's all sorts of stuff. He gives her the slippers, and she's like, oh, but those are yours. And then later, when she meets the janitor in the school, he gives her the slippers, and she's like, oh, but those are yours. Like, so the janitor and Jake are the same person. My take on this is that the janitor is like kind of ruminating over his life and what he kind of perceives as failures, and like kind of, I don't know, like the woman is like this amalgamation of missed connections, which is why her name keeps changing, and like why but she's also this kind of idealized iteration of a woman in a relationship, which is why she simultaneously is like kind of there to like support him, but also shifts on his whim, like her name, her profession, what she's wearing. It's always variable. It's always different. And like basically that is happening, but also her character is like kind of is a character and is like kind of in this realm where she is existing and has some amount of autonomy, but also doesn't because she isn't real. Like, it's like, what if you had someone fantasizing about a person and that person were real? What would that look like? That's what, yeah.
So, am I to understand that Jessie Plemons is just in fucking Black Mirror 2.0 right now?
Yeah.
Like, is that what I'm supposed to take away from this?
Yeah, basically, I kind of feel like it. Like, I feel like Jessie Buckley and Jessie Plemons are like Jesse, the guy, Jake, is like a memory of himself.
But clearly, like, again, also sort of idealized and refashioned, because he doesn't have all the memories of who he is. And I think the parents even go so far to say is like he's studying being a physicist or something.
Yeah. And then there's also these other things of like him being, like they talk about how he's not like, you know, it starts off with him being really smart. And then it's like, actually, he's not smart. He just worked really hard. And like, he got the dedication pin, and you see him with the wearing the dedication pin while he's feeding his now elderly mother. So like,
that's right.
That's kind of like where I landed in terms of like what I think is fucking going on. Did anyone have any other, like, anyone else have any like interpretations on this fucking bananas ass movie?
I mean, go ahead, please.
I thought maybe it wasn't a fantasization, but maybe it was not a fantasization, a fantasy. Please cut that.
Got it. Don't worry.
I'm sorry. I didn't necessarily think it was a fantasy. I thought maybe he was reliving memories. I thought maybe that dude, I don't know. You gave the best explanation.
It could. It actually could also be that he's like reliving memories, and that the woman is the same, but is actually like different women that he brought home to meet his parents, and like.
Yeah, and maybe even abused at some point too.
Yeah, I mean,
emotionally or even physically, which is why you get the ice cream scene
where she's got like rashes or bruises on her,
and
or something.
Why the two women can connect with one another, which is like, you need to leave, get out of this fucking relationship.
Yeah.
She also says something akin to like, you don't have to keep going.
You don't have to keep going
right?
forward.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of it too, just the way he interacts with his parents. He's obviously a hothead. He obviously he has the tendency to be abusive, and also he thinks of himself. I think he's looking back at this time and that he may have been an asshole, and he can empathize with that pig. He's rotten to the core.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's how he feels.
Yeah.
And I do think it does a pretty good job at that, actually, of making us not empathize at all with him. He's a piece of shit, and that's how you're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I thought. I do really love your interpretation of it, though. But that was kind of where I leaned.
Yeah. It's
and
like
the
whole thing is like, he just wants someone to have validated his life, right? Like he wants someone to have, because like she says that right when she's talking about how like when she notices how much he cares for his mother, and he says that thing of like, oh well, no one really, I forget what he says, but it's basically like, no one notices that, no one cares, thank you for noticing. I don't know, man. It is definitely not clear, and I feel like no matter what sort of thing I come up with, it feels like I'm grasping at straws.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's something that's germinating in my head here, and it's tied to the dedication pen. It's tied to that craving for validation. It's tied because something that stuck out with me. I'm not going to go into my interpretation because it was kind of like a blend of what you two already said. And it felt very much in line with like, oh, is this like time, like two timelines converging? Like, why do they share monologues? The janitor and her, but the end song Oklahoma is like essentially like, which I did crack up because my friend Tyler Bailey and also Ben's friend Tyler Bailey sang it in high school and just like did it in the most comical way. The floor creaks, the walls squeaks, there's a mouse nibbling on the broom. Shout out to like one of the funniest performances I've ever seen. It was phenomenal. But that song, at the end of this movie, he gets an award, and it's rather nebulous as to why. And it concludes with him singing like this song of like, I am alone and isolated, but I have proven myself, and now I need to go out and find a woman of my own. And so like, there's something here that seems like, again, only to further make the janitor or someone less sympathetic, to say like, I'm doing everything right. Like, I'm doing all the right things, not for the right reasons, mind you, but I'm doing everything right. And why didn't I get my ideal partner? Why didn't I get the award for my little dedication pin for feeding my mother when she was sick? Like, where is my validation for all of this? And so it's almost sort of this, like, again, I'm not sure what the question we're answering here is, because it does just sort of seem like, I love the, Matt, your interpretation that this is all the janitor in his final days, months, hours, whatever, is like all of his fantasies that he's created over time are sort of like, you know, like falling off and like being buried in snow or time or whatever, and because he's approaching the end of his life. I'm thinking of ending things that's synonymous with two situations in life. Like two situations do you typically hear that.
Yeah.
And so there's something that sort of feels like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. If like Tom Stoppard had written himself as Rosencrantz and Guildenstern was like, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Yeah. I think that there's I can only hope that they intended for the male characters to be as unsympathetic as they are. I can only hope that was intentional and not
that their sadness and loneliness is sort of a product of their own shit.
And not that we are supposed to sympathize with them and like.
But it's a problem that you have to hope. Like, right?
Yeah.
We should know.
Well, but the problem is that, I mean, we don't know anything about this fucking movie. We don't know anything at all. All I can tell you is that they were in a car and she read she recited a poem that she had written and then ends staring directly into the camera, which is very weird. And then eventually they fucking get to the house and he was like, oh, my mom's sick. She doesn't cook much. And then and then they, rather than going in, and there's like the fucking weird ass scene where she's just standing up there waving at her really intensely for way too long. There's so many things in this movie that like are really excellent horror things. And it doesn't, like, it feels like a horror movie, but there's no horror. There's nothing. There's no plot. There's no...
Okay, go with me here, because I am ascribing meaning where there may be none, but there also may be. This film is about the danger of fantasy, the cancer of fantasy and idolization, because it does end up leading to a lonely life. You don't get any of your connections because you close them off because they're not ideal or perfect or whatever, so you live in a self-created fantasy world. That's sort of what it seems like.
Yeah, and you become a janitor and you see an animated pig whose guts are falling out. Fucking maggots.
Well, and so like the pig with the maggots scene was interesting to me because it sort of implied that like again, I couldn't tell what the purpose of that was. It was like the story that he tells her in the barn was like these pigs got lazier and lazier and just laid here, and we were wondering why they kept laying in the corner of this room, and then it turned out that like there were maggots in their belly.
It's him. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
And so like he gorged too much on fantasy or something, and so like ended up becoming sedentary in the actual world.
Like emotionally sedentary.
Yes. Like this isn't like a physical sort of thing, but like he got so caught up looking for, I don't know, his Lucy to his Wordsworth or whatever, that like he just abandoned all genuine I don't know, like, do you see what I'm sort of getting at? Though? Like the danger of fantasy here.
What you're getting at, and I think that I think you are probably fairly correct, because they actually talk about that, right? Like they talk about
the movies and stuff.
How movies are like rabies. So I feel like that is probably what they were intending. Maybe, I don't know, but could be. Like, I don't fucking know, man. This movie is like a trip.
Because here's another thing. At the end of the day, at the end of the movie, the whole Oklahoma scene, it looks like a staged play. And that coupled with like that intense criticism, that line that's just very pointed line about like movies being a cancer in culture and whatnot or whatever. Like, motherfucker, you're telling this story in a movie. But like that, like at the end when the fantasy looks like a school play, something that we know as shorthand for like looking very cheap, or, you know, like you have to suspend a lot of extra disbelief to buy into the story, that sort of thing. Like, it's very clearly false, but he's like quoting a famous movie scene from it with like fake lines and makeup and stuff. It's saying something about how once you have this realization that the fantasy that movies push is dangerous, like you see just how fake they are in the end. Like, is that anything?
But I like, maybe, but that also feels like,
I don't know,
that seems like such a bizarre tack for someone who has made their successful career on making movies.
Sure.
Like, that seems like such an odd...
Maybe it's like Radiohead's My Iron Lung, you know? They're sick and tired of Creep. He's like, I don't... Again, I am there's no, I just don't know. I'm literally
Yeah.
sort of like light speed jumping, hoping to find a habitable planet at this point. I don't know.
It's really,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is the flaw in this movie, is that it leaves you with nothing. Like, it leaves you with no clear understanding of what it is, what it's saying, what it means, who these people really are. There's nothing there at the end of the day to hold on to.
Yeah, why was
And
he
that's a
naked
problem.
at the end?
That's
Well, so I think he was naked because so he was sitting in his car, and he's getting cold, and then he starts taking off his clothes, which is a thing that people who are going into hypothermia do. Is that they're after your body temperature,
get irrational.
Yeah, your body temperature lowers
Yep.
to the point where you actually think
That makes
that
sense.
you're hot, and so you pull off all your clothes. And so I think that like I think the character kills himself.
He's bare, man. He's bare. It's all, he's laying it all out there. Just seriously.
You go into the world, you come out of the world the way you go into it, naked and screaming, man, like, or whatever.
Wait, are we back in Point Break? What's going on?
Right? He's young, dumb, and full of cum.
Can you imagine if at the end of Point Break, he's like got the God waves going and he just like pulls off all his clothes and just dives into the water naked?
Would have been a different movie, not gonna lie.
It would have been a better movie. Dude, yeah, I don't know. This fucking movie. I think you're totally right to hate this movie. I liked it. I also think it's incredibly pretentious. That isn't necessarily a turnoff for me.
Right.
Because I can be super pretentious and I like pretentious stuff.
That's fine.
I just think,
We all have our
I just think the bigger issue is that it doesn't.
Here's the thing, though. I can too, and sometimes I do love pretentious films, but this one was just, I don't know. It was just the way it was told. I was like, dude.
Yeah,
I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I think it would have been so much more forgivable if it had really felt like it was about something. Like I feel like it would have. And his other films, the thing is, like Charlie Kaufman's films are always kind of about like the crushing weight of existence, like how much it sucks to be alive. Like that's kind of the overall vibe that his movies have. Is like, hey, doesn't it suck being a human? And you're like, yeah, it does. And I feel like this movie did the same thing, but without like doing anything.
Without imparting anything meaningful.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Because that's what the thing about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is that I like, is like, it's fucking weird, it's out there, you're given all the puzzle pieces, but at the end of the day, it's like, existence is crushing and terrifying, but like, even the bad memories of someone good, like, help make that person who they were to you. Like,
yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's something about this movie that missed its mark. And I think that makes a lot of it makes its sins less forgivable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
110% agree.
Yeah. All right, everybody. If you have other interpretations that you would like to share with us, you should fucking hit us up. This movie was like such a fever dream. And we anything, hit us up on all social media. Too Many Flicks, #2 and an X at the end. We want to hear what you have to say about this movie. If you think we're dumb, if you think we missed the point, if you think we got the point, whatever, engage us. I mean, be polite, don't be a dick, but like, or do be a dick, whatever, man. Just add us properly. That's all that matters. And yeah, we'll probably not do this for every movie, but if we feel it needs it.
Yeah, this movie, you gotta talk about it in some regards,
Absolutely.
to some extent.
Yeah.
Oof.
All right.